Waiting for Leslie to come back. I don't want to. Maybe we can go to the discussion part because we don't have enough to vote. The other things are voting on. Three A. What is that?
Enterprises LLC contract.
We can't vote on it though. We only have two people. I mean, just. Five. Good morning, everyone. In respect to the time, and because there are some issues that have to be voted on, we're going to move to a couple of items. We're going to call the meeting to order without a quorum, and we're going to move to discuss until Councilman Thomas and Councilman Harris arrive, and if Councilman Jeruso is able to make it. We're going to move to two things. Look at your agenda number 4, item number 4, relative to amending the District D bond project package is going to be deferred into the next Public Works Committee meeting. And then number 5 is the discussion on the persistent and growing issue of illegal tire dumping across the city. Because it involves a multiplicity of agencies, we can have those representatives come forward to the area, the seating area, and begin that presentation. So we're at number 5 because the other issues need a quorum for approval. So do we have representatives of the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, Department of Sanitation, I saw Mr. Torrey, the NOPD 7th District Community Advocates, Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, Louisiana State Police, Mosquito, Termite, and Rodent Control, and also Bayou Sauvage. If so, please come to the table. I saw we're at number 5, which is just discussion on the issue. And we're just going to give each person a couple of minutes to describe your role and also your suggestions relative to the reducing illegal dumping. Illegal tire dumping especially. Obviously, it's a problem in New Orleans East. You probably also know that it's a problem especially under the elevated areas in District D and throughout our city. So what we'll do is we'll have discussion in order. Ask each presenter to maybe take 3 to 5 minutes, and we can certainly come back. I remind the public that if you have any public comments, that you should fill out a card and put it in over there. And I'm going to ask Mr. Martin if he'll just be on the lookout for any cards. It looks like there might be a couple there now on these issues. Yes.
Councilman, let me take roll real quick since we do have a quorum.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Oh, I changed
Councilmember Thomas, Councilmember Jeruso, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember King, Councilmember Green. We
Here.
have 3 members. We have a quorum.
Well, interestingly enough, we do have a quorum.
Let's go ahead.
Give me a second. Do you all have anywhere to go? Are you going to be around? You have anywhere to go? I don't know if I want to go back, maybe since we have the quorum. Hey, folks, stay right there where you are, all right? It seems a little bit disorganized, but it's not. We have a couple of issues that have to be voted on. So since we have a quorum, if anything could come up, you all stay where you are, and I'm going to move back to 3A, the amendment number 3 to the bid contract with MDL Enterprises for skid steer and front-end loaders with operator services to extend the term for 1 year. Mr. Torrey.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, council. So this is an amendment to an existing contract for supplemental equipment for Mardi Gras and special events for front-end loaders and skid steers. This is Amendment 3. The contract originally went into effect in 2023. The extension's for 1 year. We do have one additional extension year remaining. We use this contract both for Mardi Gras and special events as well as to supplement illegal dumping remediation throughout the city. The current aggregate expenditure for this contract is $2.4 million, and the DBE is also the prime of the work that we're doing. So,
Okay. Council members, do you have any questions relative to this matter, 3A? Are there any comments online? I've moved for approval of this item, approval of this amendment. May I get a second? Seconded by Councilmember Harris. Members, please vote your machine. 3 yeas, and with that, 3A is approved. Item 3B. Okay, folks, we're going to go a little bit out of order again. We're going to go to item number C, 3C, which is a rental agreement with Executive Plaza to provide office space and signage for the New Orleans Health Department's WIC program with a term of 2 years and a cost of $78,876. Is there a representative of the Health Department present who can speak to this matter? Thank you. Would you identify yourself, please, and comment on this matter, 3C?
Good morning. My name is Shanita Jackson. I am the Maternal Child Health Director for WIC and Healthy Start New Orleans. And this is an agreement to rent leasing space in Executive Plaza in New Orleans East for us to provide WIC services for 2 years in that location, continue to provide our services there.
Okay. Members, are there any comments relative to
I have a
yes,
question. So these services are currently being provided in
Yes.
this location? In this
Yes.
location? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, this is, that doesn't really concern this project, but it's just a pet peeve of mine that the city is now going to spend roughly $80,000 to rent space, and we have city-owned property that is sitting vacant and blighted. Again, this is not with you, but I know the old 4th District Police Station in Algiers is sitting vacant over 20 years, and we could use that location to fix it up and provide those same services without renting, and it's our property, and we're making an investment. So I just want to go on record just saying that we have a lot of surplus properties in the city that we can remodel and renovate and invest in and not pay somebody else rent. But look, this is a great program. It's needed in this location. I just wish that we could be a bit more prudent in investing our money in our own property. But I'm definitely 100% behind this initiative. Thank you.
Councilman Thomas, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
First of all, thank you guys. Sorry, man, New Orleans is used to be a city you could get from one end of the city to the other extremely easy. It usually didn't take half hour, 45 minutes, but there was a fuel tanker broke down on I-10 coming this way. So I apologize for my tardiness. Councilmember, continue until I get my
Okay.
bearings together.
Well, thank you, Councilman King, for the questions. Members, do we have a question or comment on 3C? It's been moved by Councilmember Harris to approve 3C, the rental agreement, seconded by Councilmember King. Members, please vote your machines. Madam Harris. 4 yeas so the matter of 3C has been approved. Councilman Thomas, we can move to the professional services agreement with the Pacific Rerig Pacific Company,
That's 3B.
3B.
3B, Madam, Ms. Curran, if you could read 3B, please.
Sure, this is the professional services agreement with Reed Pacific Company for the manufacture, assembly, and delivery of recycling carts and educational recycling kits with a term of 3 years and a maximum cost of $4.7 million, most of which is reimbursable by the EPA.
Okay, who's here to make the presentation and explain exactly what 3B is?
Good morning, Greg Nichols, Office of Resilience, Director of the Office of Resilience and Sustainability. Just going to get our presentation. Good morning, council members. Nice to be with you here this morning. So in 2023, the city was given a $3.9 million grant to expand curbside recycling program and to develop a solid waste master plan. Today, we'd like to start with a little bit of an overview.
Mr. Nichols, before you proceed, now that we have a quorum, if I move approval of the minutes.
Second, Green.
The August 26th meeting, second by Councilmember Green. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, so ordered. Sorry, thank you.
No problem. So we'll give a little bit of an overview of the project and the current status of recycling locally, and then I'll turn it over to Matt to talk a little bit about the operations and logistics, the outreach we're going to do around the grant, and then I'll wrap things up with a few updates. So as I mentioned, in 2023, we were awarded $3.9 million from the EPA's Swiffer program to expand the city's curbside recycling program and develop a 10-year solid waste master plan to look at the policies, programs, and infrastructure needed to improve our waste diversion rate. We were also awarded an additional $1.4 million from the Recycling Partnership, or TRP, that we are using as match funds for the grant to allow us to buy additional carts and provide a robust education campaign that we'll delve into more shortly. Both of our departments, ORS and Sanitation, have worked with TRP since 2022 when they gave the city approximately $400,000 to purchase carts and conduct initial education efforts to assist the city in restarting recycling in the wake of Hurricane Ida. The goals for this project are to deliver 83,000 carts to eligible service locations with educational packets, expand our outreach efforts to educate residents about the benefits of recycling and what can and can't be recycling, and as I mentioned, developed a 10-year solid waste master plan. So why is this grant important? Recycling rates in the state of Louisiana are some of the lowest in the country, at 12% compared to 43% nationwide. The data you see here comes from TRP's State of Recycling Report from 2024. Just for clarity, participation rate is the number of households with a cart out of the total households overall. So are our state's lower participation rates because residents don't want to recycle? Data from TRP would argue otherwise. In early 2024, TRP surveyed residents in Louisiana and Texas, including New Orleans specifically, asking them if they would like their recycling service to be better than it is today, or if they were satisfied with current services. 65% of New Orleans residents said they would like it to be better, the highest of any of the areas TRP surveyed. That's why this grant represents such an opportunity. Residents want better service, and that starts with providing them a cart and educating them on the benefits of recycling. Zeroing in a bit more on New Orleans, our recycling rate is quite low. About 2 to 3% of waste annually gets diverted from the landfill, far below the national diversion rate, which is about 32%. So just as another quick note between participation and diversion, the participation rate I showed a couple slides ago is households with a cart. The diversion rate, or the recycling rate, is the percentage of waste that is kept out of the landfill. This grant allows the city to transition from an opt-in program to an opt-out recycling program. Currently, about 58% of service locations in New Orleans do not have a recycling cart. This 83,000 carts represents equitable access to recycling service for all New Orleans residents, particularly those who don't typically take advantage of city services. It covers all eligible occupied service locations, and it excludes hotels, bars, restaurants, dumpster-served sites, and multi-unit buildings of 4 or more units. So primarily residential and small multi-unit properties. We're also hoping to start the process of replacing the legacy black recycling carts still in use, hopefully around 10,000 of them, pending the final number of carts distributed. We estimate that this recycling expansion and increased education for all residents will result in an increase of about 19,000 to 30,000 tons diverted from the landfill annually, up significantly from our current rates. This expansion is one of the biggest steps we can take to achieve our climate action plan goal of 25% diversion rate by 2030. Recycling also includes several benefits. It diverts waste not only from our landfill, but also our communities, our streets, and our stormwater management system, reducing the blockages we know we find in our catch basins. It conserves our natural resources by reducing the need to harvest virgin resources such as timber, water, and minerals needed for new products. And it also reduces greenhouse gas emissions. Using recycled materials lessens the emissions created by new production. The grant, as mentioned earlier, will allow the city to write our first solid waste master plan, which will focus on the policies, programs, and infrastructure needed to meet our diversion goals, including investigating the feasibility of things like municipal curbside organic service, requiring recycling at commercial and large multifamily properties, and the infrastructure locally which would be needed to process these new diverted waste streams, among other topics. We're able to take this on to the council funding ORS for the city's first ever role focused on waste diversion, which is Chris Lang, who's here in the crowd with us today, hired in July 2025 to manage this grant and all other diversion efforts, a position that the city has never had before. Regarding the timeline of this grant, the award was announced in October of 2023, but we didn't receive our federal funding agreement until March of 2024. We had to create and get approved by the EPA a couple of large documents called a QMP and a QAPP, which we completed last summer. We also had to compile data on existing recycling carts as well as put the cart RFP out, which we did in late 2024 through the early part of this year. We've been engaging the Climate Action Equity Project Advisory Group, a partnership between GNOF and the Deep South Center for Environmental Justice, to ensure our rollout and messaging is equitable and meets the needs of our community. And since April 2025, we've been engaging directly with the city's haulers on this program expansion, which Matt is going to talk about in more depth shortly. I'll turn it over to Matt.
Thanks, Greg. As Greg mentioned in his overview, we currently, as a city, only have less than 50% of the eligible and occupied households who've opted into the city's curbside recycling program since 2011. I wanted to take this time just to remind everyone, when the city relaunched curbside recycling in 2011 after it had been halted post-Hurricane Katrina, the reason the city utilized an opt-in model was purely based on budgetary constraints. We did not have funds to buy carts for all households, so the solution was that we would use an opt-in model which would allow us to use funds available, but we wouldn't be having that upfront significant cost that it would hit us if every household received a cart. So this opportunity through this EPA grant with Swifter presents a rare and unprecedented opportunity for the city to expand curbside recycling to all eligible and occupied households. And we, along with the Office of Resilience and Sustainability, are extremely excited about what this program could mean for all residents in the city of New Orleans. You see here a breakdown of our current service areas, 1 through 4, which would be in scope for this program, the count of service locations which have received a cart and those which have not yet received a cart. You see here areas 3 and service areas 4 have the largest impact with regards to the percentage of locations that have not yet opted into the program, while areas 1 and 2 have a lower percentage of households that haven't yet opted in, but constitute a larger majority of the overall households with the service counts listed. This process has gone back several years and has been a lengthy and detailed process. We did issue an RFP in April of this year and had a vendor selection. So Rear Pacific is the vendor who was selected by the city, in which we're here to talk about that contract approval to move forward with execution so that we can move forward with implementing this grant. So we've taken a number of pre-launch activities with regards to this, validating our existing recycling cart data going back to 2011 to see where those carts have been deployed to, developing our cart rollout plan with assembly and distribution, and partnering with the recycling partnership around that education and outreach material, which we're going to go into more detail on. With a program of this size and complexity, we fully understand that there will be some challenges. and we're going to outline some of them here. So we know that with having less than 50% of eligible households having opted into the program, expanding this program to households that have not yet requested a cart will add additional tonnage. So Greg touched on what we think that'll look like there. So we expect to see approximately 100%, 140% increase in tonnage across the 4 service areas. The city's service contractors currently utilize 2 processing facilities, which we usually refer to as MRFs. We have CW Recycling in Jefferson, as well as Republic Services in Baton Rouge. The local facility here in Jefferson, CW, is small, and we'll have some processing capacity constraints when it comes to those materials if all of the material were to go there. So we've been working with the contractors to explore options to deliver those materials to Republic Services in Baton Rouge, which certainly can handle those increased capacity. IV Waste, which services areas 1 and 2, which constitutes the largest count of service locations, has utilized Republic Services for the first 2 years of the contract and continues to use it intermittently now as CW has some capacity constraints. A recommendation that came directly to us from our contractors to help offset and mitigate some of the challenges with this program would be to look at a phased rollout model where instead of having all the carts hit the street at one time, we would phase that rollout out in increments to lessen the operational impact to the collections and allow us to focus education and outreach on the impacted service locations. So the city has agreed and supported that recommendation and has worked collaboratively with the contractors on a phased rollout schedule.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question, please? It's important that
Councilmember Green.
it addresses the rollout issue. When you say phased rollout, what do you look at in terms of volume or in terms of time frame?
So we are looking at breaking the rollout up into approximately 4 or 5 increments or phases. The current grant runs through March of this year. We've had conversations with the EPA around potentially extending the grant to allow that rollout schedule to go beyond March of this year, which they seem amenable to.
You use language, you said that the current, what goes through March of this year, so we're beyond that right now.
March
obviously.
of 2026.
26, okay,
Councilor, I
just like-
apologize, yes.
Okay, so that's fine. So you're looking at a phased rollout in multiple stages, which would go over approximately what period of time?
Well, we haven't finalized the schedule yet, so, right now, we would hopefully be starting in November of this year, assuming this contract is executed, because there's a lead time on getting the carts manufactured, and we would finalize that schedule with the contractors and what that phase rollout looks like. So it would be broken up again into 4 or 5 phases over the course of approximately a year or so.
Since we're talking about manufacturing, when might it start?
As soon as the contract is signed between the city and RERIG, manufacturing would start. We would hopefully like to start rolling out carts through the pilot at the front of that phases in November of this year. So in November of 2025, those first wave of carts would hit households.
In the best of all worlds, how many would you roll out in November?
The recommendation from the contractors was we would do 1 of their routes per day per service location. So a route constitutes approximately 500 households. We're looking at 2,500 households per area. So we're talking about approximately 10,000 locations in that pilot first phase.
You have buy-in from contractors as if you're in communications with them?
We are in contact with the contractors. We have received feedback from one of the contractors that has expressed concerns around, the impact to their operations because they are the largest contractor providing service for areas 1 and 2.
How do you respond to that?
I think we've had a very transparent and collaborative approach to this with engaging the contractors. We're open to their recommendations to help lessen the operational impact. So as I mentioned, the recommendation for the phased approach came from the contractors, which we agreed to. We continue to solicit input from them and we're all focused on a successful rollout, and we know that it's going to take input from all parties. So we'll continue to seek any input and work that into the program to be successful.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So let's stay there. So they're open to lessen the impact of the operational costs. To what degree? Because right now, garbage contractors are getting 2.5 to 3 times more and picking up less garbage than the folk who did it at much cheaper cost twice a week. So open to lessening the impact means what?
So when I say lessening the operational impact through a phased approach, this means, again, we're going to gradually roll out the carts in phases so that it's not such an immediate impact where all of the carts are coming at once. So you'd have 4 or 5 phases where carts would be rolled out over a schedule, which would break them up, which means that you wouldn't have such a dramatic impact of saying, have 80,000 carts hit the city at once. You'd be breaking them up in increments of 10 or 20,000.
So how much if the city was doing this without a grant, how much would it cost?
To roll out the carts,
This recycling initiative. I mean, surely you guys have done a study to take a look at a budget where there's a potential $100 million deficit, and I'm hearing there are private conversations amongst the administration to talk about furloughs that they haven't even shared with anybody here on the council in terms of budget impact, that once this grant runs out, so if you scale up and you have everything in place, so where does the money come from to continue the program? Because it's a year-to-year grant, correct? So we're scaling up and we're investing in a grant knowing that everything is uncertain with the federal government these days.
yes, so the grant for this component of it pays for the actual carts themselves, as well as the pieces of the education and outreach. So the city, regardless of this grant, has an opt-in program where we deploy thousands of carts a year, which we currently pay for those carts. Approximately $300,000 to $500,000 a year the city pays right now to buy recycling carts to deliver to households. So we bear that cost as the city of New Orleans. This grant allows us to obviously not incur those costs going forward. So we're going to save that money going forward through this EPA grant. The cost to service households, which we pay our contractors, we pay each of the contractors between $5 and $6 per unit to provide recycling services to all eligible and occupied households, we're already paying. So there's no additional cost on the service side. Where we would see some costs would be on maintenance. So as we deploy more carts, clearly carts get damaged or broken and need to be repaired. So we would be replacing wheels, we would be replacing lids for more carts because we're deploying them. But that would come certainly at a less cost than the cost that we would have been paying to buy carts to roll out.
So if this grant isn't approved if we don't have year 2 of this grant, then there's no more cost to the municipality to continue the program.
The grant is fully covered by the EPA right now. So the dollars that are in the
Right,
grant.
but what about when it runs out?
Well, we're hoping that we spend the money before the grant runs out, and as Matt mentioned, we've been in conversations with the EPA about extending that grant, and they have indicated their openness and willingness to extend, giving us a no-cost time extension to be able to fully implement. So,
So we're hoping that they continue.
correct.
We anticipate executing the grant within the time frame and exhausting all the funds of the grant, so we don't envision a scenario where there would be costs coming beyond the grant.
And the only reason why I'm asking these questions, and Councilmember Green opened the door, is that everyone, when you talk about impact on solid waste collection, impact on pollution, waterways, climate change, recycling is a good thing. But I know you guys have studied, gone back and looked at the LA study on recycling when it first became trendy, and the fact that it cost the municipality millions and millions of dollars, but 70% of the items were still winding up in landfills and winding up still in nature. So it sounds good in many cases, and I know since you guys studied the whole impact of recycling, that we haven't really gotten together with the business community to create a market so that recycling is profitable. And so that we're not just picking up recycling and impacting the budget and getting neighbors and our citizens to say, hoorah, we're recycling, but then the cost burden starts to impact the general budget, and then we discontinue recycling like some of our neighbors have done and other municipalities have because it wasn't cost effective. So I don't want to answer and walk down this without talking to experts and people in opportunity about how the municipality protects itself and how we've worked with our partners to create a market where the cost burden isn't passed on to a city with a shrinking budget right now.
Yeah, I just want to, I hear you, Councilmember. I just want to state for the public that, again, these costs are being borne by the federal government to expand this program, not by the city. We do expect and hope that the grant terms would be extended. Also, with the business community, what I would say is that one of the best ways that we can make it profitable to be recycling profitable is to create that market. And right now, we don't have enough tonnage because we don't have enough households that are recycling. And so this grant presents an opportunity to the business community to create that tonnage that would make it profitable.
Well, that's been a 50-year discussion about how do you create the market, and we haven't come up with a solution yet. So at some point, if we're going to do something different here in this region, especially given our natural topography and its impact on climate changes and some of the stuff we're seeing from saltwater intrusion to what's happening with our natural topography, then we need to at least dig a little deeper than just, there's this trend, recycling. We need to have checked a lot of the boxes. What's the market? How is it more than a trend? If these grants run out, how do we maintain something that has a positive impact on the environment? I would just like to see some of those answers and boxes checked while we're initiating this program, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I guess just to add a little more information, council member, right? So again, we currently pay through our curbside collection contracts a per unit rate for solid waste and recycling collection for all households. So we're already paying for recycling collection for all households, despite the fact that only half of the households are actually participating in the program. We're paying for carts every year to deliver carts to programs to residents that opt in. This grant would remove that cost from the city's budget going forward, which is a great thing, cost savings. But also, when we recycling material that goes through this program doesn't go to the landfill, which again saves the city money by not paying that landfill cost. So the cost for collection, transport, processing, and marketing is all embedded in that per unit cost that we pay the contractor through these contracts. So as more recyclable material goes through the program, that means less material may be going to the landfill incorrectly, which saves the city money again.
And we deal with that and talk about tonnage, right? How much tonnage actually goes to the landfill, right?
Yes.
So the less recycling, when we have recycling, how does that impact? What does that mean in terms of tonnage? How much money are we saving?
So say households who don't have a recycling cart, clearly materials that are eligible are picked up with their trash and is going to the landfill. As they're issued a recycling cart and join the recycling program, start to recycle, those materials will go to the recycling processing facility, not the landfill, and the city doesn't incur any costs associated with that recycling processing, so we're saving the cost of those recyclable materials going to the landfill.
Yeah, and I think it would be important to show the public that a recycling program, if it doesn't have market benefits, if we haven't really done what we really need to do when we talk about a market study and overall impact, it would be good to show them how much is actually saved in tonnage in terms of their budget and what they put to, because people are really crazy now about the fact that they pay for 2 times a week and they get sometimes a week.
Absolutely. So we currently pay approximately $35 per ton for things to go to the landfill. So there's a corresponding cost savings for every ton that is recycled and doesn't go to the landfill. That's $35, and that adds up pretty quickly when we're talking about 19 to 30,000 additional tons, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember, thank you. I have some questions. So the grant money we already have in hand.
I mean, it's a reimbursable grant, but yes, we have, you guys approved both the agreement with the recycling partnership for our match funds as well as our agreement with the EPA last year.
And just to put a fine point on it, we are already paying money for households to recycle that do not have carts.
Yes, we pay for every eligible and occupied household for solid waste and recycling collection.
And did you get through your presentation, I don't know if we cut you off before, to talk about education and how we're going to make sure that people understand, to Councilmember Thomas's point, that this will actually save the city money?
We do have some
We
material.
do have more, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Harris.
Great. So we'll try to keep going. I know we have other things on the agenda today. So as we mentioned, we've worked collaboratively with our contractors on this project rollout. You see here the city's 3 curbside collection contractors, Ivy Waste, Waste Pro, and Richards Disposal. We had a project kickoff meeting in April. We've done multiple stakeholder meetings in June to discuss the project schedule, processing capacity, information from past rollouts, and the education and outreach best practices. We facilitated a ride-along and on-site visit with Ivy Waste in July 2025 to view operations and provide recommendations on their transfer station operations and processing. One of the major wins for this program is we've added an in-mold label to the carts of every cart that will get delivered through this program. So the in-mold label is a hot stamp graphic that gets imprinted on the top lid of the recycling cart that will literally show residents what can go in the cart and what cannot go in the cart. So this visually reminds them when they go to their cart, hey, you can't put glass in here, you cannot put bags in here, you can put this in here. So that's a huge part of the overall education program. And as I mentioned, we endorsed the phased rollout model requested by our contractors along with the phased approach in front. This is a significant undertaking by the city and our contractors, and it will take collaboration, as we've talked about. The current contracts do clearly define the contractor's obligations with regards to recycling material collections. As I mentioned, contractors are currently paid to collect, transport, process, and market recyclable material from all eligible and occupied service locations. The contract was explicit in stating that the contractors must maintain capacity to scale collection operations to match anticipated significant growth. The contractors are supposed to be doing anti-contamination work around improper set out and having a full-time dedicated recycling coordinator to implement a public awareness program. So Councilmember Harris, you touched on it. Education will be critical for this rollout. We know to be successful, we need to touch residents multiple times to make sure that they understand what's happening and how to properly recycle so that we can limit contamination and ultimately have a successful program. So through this program, the Recycling Partnership has brought significant funds to this. On a normal cart rollout project as such, the Recycling Partnership usually allocates $1 per household. They've allocated $4 per household for New Orleans because they understand the importance of this success of this program. One of the programs that we plan to implement following the pilot as well as during each phase rollout will be what's referred to as a Feet on the Street program. So this is in-person people that will be going to every cart that is issued prior to collection on a given day, looking in that cart to see what's there and tagging it if there's contamination to let the resident know, hey, you put X, Y, and Z in your cart that shouldn't be in there. So that paired with direct outreach will drive positive behavior change because it's alerting the resident that, hey, you shouldn't put this thing in there, and that will happen for 4 successive times during that cart rollout there.
Councilmember Thomas?
Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. Matt, I know that a lot of times when you talk about recycling and educational programs, it's really sometimes youth-driven. So is there any plans to get into the schools to talk to kids so that they can talk their parents into using recycling properly?
So we have, again, a broad and expansive and very generous budget when it comes to education outreach, and it's by no means set as far as how we're going to spend all those funds. So we are very much open to recommendation, advice, and that's something we could definitely look at as far as that.
I think it's important. I think the other thing that my Matt has alerted me to is whether or not you're going to come to neighborhood association meetings, whether or not you're going to go to churches, how are you going to get this information out? Because I do think it's important, being a person who recycles everything, including glass, I know that sometimes contaminants get into my cart not because of me and my household, but because of passersby who are just throwing stuff in my recycling cart. So I think you're going to have a broad education program around this. My other question centers on glass. I know we're sort of off topic. Are there any plans going forward to partner with a company like Glass Half Full to implement glass recycling? I take mine to the Mardi Gras Indian Den. There are other places around the city that are doing voluntary free collection, but I haven't seen the Department of Sanitation note any of those locations or educate people about locations where they can recycle glass for free.
I can take that one. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that our new Circular Economy and Policy Program Manager is working on right now is a database that can be put on both our website and linked to Matt's website about all the drop-off locations. So not just for glass, but where you can compost, where you can take hard to recycle things, more information about Matt's hazardous household waste day. So yeah, right now there isn't really a comprehensive database, but we're working on it, we're building it.
And what's the timeline? I get a lot of we're working on it and we're building over these past 4 years.
We will
but-
definitely have it done before the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but Councilmember Harris, just thinking about it and have thought about it are two different things. So we're rolling out something here that you would have thought the educational component would have not only been thought about, would be part of the rollout about.
So what Councilmember Harris was alluding to is separate from this program, but equally important around glass.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but separate but equal. Yeah, right now it's separate but unequal. Because the education component, especially, and that's why my concern about having another trendy program versus something that's sustainable is important. Because every time government starts something, it very rarely does it go away and it winds up impacting the citizens of this community, and where does the money come from? But an education, a real education program helps to prepare the citizenry so that everyone understands the benefits of an effort like this. And who are we partnering with? Who are the experts and the activists in this community that we're partnering with to help lead this education effort? Okay.
Can I chip in for just a second? So, Councilmember.
Excuse me a second, man. Did you fill out a card? I'm just trying to
I
follow
didn't. I'm on the
protocol.
city's team. I'm the new hire with the Circular
okay.
Economy Program
All right.
and Policy Manager
I
position.
know who you are. You've been pushing
Okay.
this piece for a while.
Well, I'll be one of the people leading some of this
Okay.
education outreach stuff, and I have, a diverse network of community stakeholders. I've just been in the position for, a month and a half, so we're building out the strategy. I have a Rolodex of schools who I'm, starting to reach out to, but that process is underway, and this is an unprecedented opportunity. I just want to make that clear.
No, well, I have faith seeing you. Usually you've been an activist coming before the committee. Now you're part of the rollout and to educate our community. So that was my concern right there, is that who's going to be part of educating the community, who's going to be part of making this sustainable.
I think Matt's next slide is going to
Okay,
address this.
all right.
Yeah, I mean, having Chris Lang come on board as a full-time employee, I mean, we are extremely grateful for the council for making that happen. You funded that position within ORS. It's the first time that the city's had a dedicated person to be focused on the circular economy and recycling. Chris has been working hand in hand with the recycling partnership, to your point, Councilmember Thomas, who is the subject matter expert. They've done this type of rollout in over 11 cities. We can touch on some of those, but I want to make sure but to your point about education, I mean, we are in the process of finalizing the materials that will provide some of the education outreach. So residents will receive a Carts Are Coming announcement directly to their household. There's a cart packet that goes with each cart, which has information in it, a welcome letter, FAQs. We have participation mailers and the Feet on the Street program that we touched on, social media, PSA campaigns, and community outreach. So all of those things are underway. We're happy to share drafts of those materials with the council, and then once they're finalized with you as well. You do see some of the examples of the materials here. We brought our informational cards, and we can give those to you all to look at as well. But to your point, we certainly appreciate and understand the importance of the education and outreach to this. That is why the budget allocation that we received through the recycling partnership of $4 per household compared to the $1 per household that they normally do is so important for us, and really reiterates and strengthens the dedication we have to the overall success of this program.
So just a couple more slides and then we'll take further questions. But we do want to close this morning by talking about the urgency for us collectively to act here. The Trump administration's stance towards federal funding has been well documented, canceling grants, repealing clean energy tax credits. While we hope the SWIFT program is less in their crosshairs, we can't be sure of that, and SWIFT implementation is critical to ensure that these dollars benefit our residents. This CAR contract that is before you today represents much of the spending under the grant, $3.3 million out of the $3.9 million, and we need to start as soon as possible to ensure we don't put these funds further at risk. Also, I'll note that this contract will provide continued access to recycling carts. Beyond this grant, the contract will serve as the city's mechanism for providing new and replacement carts that Matt will be able to purchase out of his budget. And should this contract be delayed in any way, sanitation will have no way to provide new or replacement recycling carts once their current supply is exhausted. Just to give a little sense, give the council and the public a sense of the risk regarding EPA grants. What you see on this slide is a list of canceled or reduced grants here locally. Nonprofits, university, and other governmental agencies across the New Orleans region have had their grants canceled outright by EPA or had the remaining balance to spend canceled, reducing those awards' impact on our community. While the city's EPA awards have not yet been cut, these cancellations show that there's real risk out there and demonstrates the need for us to move forward quickly with implementing. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to bring the benefits of recycling to all our residents, and we're asking you for your support to keep this project moving forward. We're happy to take further questions.
Is that it for your presentation?
Yes.
I have a question, Councilman.
Councilmember King. Then I have some cards from,
So you all are going to pick up all the old recycling bins?
No, this is one of the goals of this program is to deliver carts to households that have not opted into the program. There is a portion of the budget allocated to replace some of the legacy black carts that are still in use. I mean, we don't currently have enough budget to replace all of those black carts, but there will be an effort to replace some.
Okay, and the ones that you do replace, I just want to know where will they be housed? Because when we did the trash cans years ago, they were all housed at the Hindi incinerator site, which caused a lot of people to be upset. So where would these legacy trash cans be, legacy recycling cans be housed?
So we haven't finalized the location. I can tell you it would not be Hendy where we would locate them. It potentially would be our site on Elysian Fields. One of the benefits of the new contract that's before you with RERIG is that it provides for a rebate program. So carts that are replaced or damaged and can no longer be used, we can actually turn those carts into RERIG, who will recycle them, turn them into new carts, and they actually give the city a credit towards the purchase of new carts based on the collection of those. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Thank you.
we have some speakers. Tricia Travis. Ms. Travis.
Hello. Thanks for giving me the time to speak today. My name is Tricia Travis. I am a native New Orleanian. I went to Audubon Montessori. I went to Ben Franklin for high school and Tulane for college. So been here many years. Today I'm here as a concerned citizen and also on behalf of Grounds Crew. We're an environmental nonprofit and we focus on waste prevention and recycling for special events. A big event that we work on is Mardi Gras. We also work closely with the city and ORS on Recycle-Dat, which is the parade recycling program. You may have seen we set up stations along the parade route. We collect recycling, we collect beads to be reused the following years. So we just want to say we fully support this recycling expansion. We find it's really important to increase this recycling rate, the residential recycling rate, to get closer to the national average, especially in a city that's affected so much by climate change. As the research and his presentations have shown, the low recycling rate is not necessarily due to a disinterest in wanting to recycle, but rather an inaccessibility issue, as well as lack of education. So we fully support this initiative, and we look forward to helping with any community outreach or anything that ORS might need for building a more resilient community for years to come.
Thank you, Ms. Travis. Mr. Greg Swafford.
All right, how y'all doing? I don't get up here too much. My name is Gregory Swafford, co-founder of Culture Cleanliness, Southeast Louisiana organizer at Healthy Gulf. I'm here to voice my support for the proposed recycling cart contract for the 83,000 recycling carts, but I have some concerns, and the main one is I'm interested in hearing more about the specifics around the community, the implementation of the program itself. Too often, those specifics are very obscure and they aren't planned out properly. So largely, just taking a patient approach to accepting the money and implementing the program. I am understanding, and I understand that there is some urgency across the country. We are witnessing clawbacks of the EPA funds. But again, approving this contract ensures that New Orleans residents will have equitable access to recycling infrastructure. We need community resilience, and we just can't, community organizations can't do the heavy lifting on our own without the government support. That's just a fact. So I'm for the recycling carts, but I would love to see a more detailed plan around the implementation. Too often, residents aren't being involved in these projects, and they hold a lot of credibility in getting the community to buy in. And so if we can come to some sort of strike a balance with that, then I would be for the project itself. Thank you.
One of the reasons why I asked a question earlier was that when I saw this young man and a few of the others, you guys are consistently here when you talk about trash, recycling, and our climate. So my concern, Mr. Swafford, was that had those conversations been had on the front end, because I would have thought that if we're going to come out with this initiative right now, the contractors are going to make money. Garbage contracts are 2.5, 3 times more than they were, but less service. So we know they're getting paid. But if we're going to roll this out, has there been a meeting on the front end with folk who consistently for the last few years that I've been here, come here to address the city in terms of recycling initiatives and recycling programs? And so I would hope that maybe after this meeting, then maybe there'll be that meeting, especially with the folk who've consistently not only showed interest, but talked about the environment and why this is important. So maybe you guys can reach out with some of the folk who have been on the front line with this and talk about how the education effort, the rollout, and the sustainability of this program happens in spite of what they do at the federal government. So I would hope that next time y'all come back to report, you would report as a unit, not just a rollout from the administration. Mr. Kevin Ferguson.
Kevin Ferguson, New Orleans and Company, 2020 St. Charles Avenue. Good morning, chairperson, members of the committee. I'm here to really support this initiative. I think one of the things as an organization that we've embraced in my time is supporting sustainability and recycling. Personally, it's something that I value and believe in. I moved back here in 2008, and I remember when I got my residential recycling cart in 2011. And it's hard to sit here and believe that half of our city doesn't have that opportunity. But more than just believing in recycling and more than just believing in sustainability, I believe in leadership. And if you've heard me speak before, I've got a very simple definition. Leaders take people to a place they wouldn't normally get on their own. And I firmly believe that that is the case with ORS, and not just because they talk that talk, but because I've seen it over 3.5 years as we built Mardi Gras Parade Route Recycling with other partners. It's been incredible to see the impact of that program, and I can tell you firsthand, this is a group that is dedicated to the details. I think that's the best version of city government, is taking on tough, ambitious challenges and executing on them. And I think it's not just because we can do more, but it's because there's a belief that we deserve more as a city. I think too often we sit around and say, oh, as a city, we can't do this, we can't do that. Our people aren't ready for this, we're not ready for that. How do we raise that level of expectation on a consistent basis? And this is a great example of how we do that. We've got the funds committed, we've got support from the federal government to execute this. You've got great leadership in place at Department of Sanitation and ORS, and so we're asking for you guys to support this effort. Thank you.
Yeah, but it makes it easier, especially when you talk about the role of New Orleans and Company. 20 million visitors pre-COVID. Mr. Ferguson, now we're, I think, 17. If we continue, we'll not only equal, but we'll probably exceed those 20 million visitors. If you guys are on the front line with education from the folk who visit the city, hotels, conventions, groups, then if y'all are involved in education on the front end, well, that kind of helps this effort a little bit. So I would love to see what you guys' plans are at New Orleans and Company to educate the folk who come here, but also the people who provide the service, the hotels, the businesses, the nighttime economy, And that would be a real big win if y'all are not just supporting this effort, but on the front line for educating and creating an environment where visitors and people alike and service industry people also understand the importance of recycling. E. John Litchfield.
Hi, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. John Litchfield, I represent IV Waste. I know only on 2 minutes. I usually get about 20 minutes in court. So
John,
this
you
is what it
usually
is.
take 20 anyway.
I know.
I've never seen you be a 2-minute man.
Oh, well,
But you got 2 minutes.
I appreciate it. Several things. Number one, we're against this right now for one reason. Sidney Torres and IV is not against recycling. It is a wise, it's a good, it's a valuable thing to do. There is a program in. You have a 311 number you can call. One of the goals should be to get people encouraged, to motivate people to recycle. I used the word dumping, that's probably impolite, but just putting 83,000 cans in people's yards is not going to motivate anybody to recycle. It might upset them, they might take offense, they're not going to be motivated to do it. I suggest, Mr. Thomas, you're absolutely right. You need an educational plan. If you're going to do this, do it right. Let's get a plan together. Let's bring in these well-motivated citizens. Let's use the expertise of the city. What IV would like to do, in addition to everything else, is hire an expert. Get an expert, an environmental expert. We'll make it public. We'll get the report. You can take advantage of it. The city can take advantage of it. Let's get a plan. Let's just not go and take money. Incidentally, I read on the agenda that it's going to cost $4.7 million, 3.3 of which is going to be reimbursed by EPA. So it sounds to me, my math tells me that the city then is going to have to come up with another $1.4 million. Maybe you have it. Maybe you'd rather do that than the streets and everything else. That's up to you. You are elected. I don't think it's a good idea. Not without a plan. It's an excellent idea. By the way, recycling and encouraging motivating people to recycle is an excellent idea, but let's do it with an organized plan, which IV will willing to help in every regard, financially.
Thank you, Miss. Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Councilmember, I have questions.
Councilmember Harris.
Several questions. Matt, I thought you said that IV Waste was amenable with a phased rollout. Attorney Litchfield, if you could stay up here for a second. Was there no conversation had about a phased rollout?
I understand there was some conversations, but 10 to 20,000 cans at one time is not a very phased project. There is in place in your contract right now with IV Waste, and I think your contract with every sanitation service provider, for a phased rollout. It's called the 311 program. You motivate these people. You get them to want a can. Get them to do what you do, Council Lady Harris. Want to, just like Sydney does and everybody else, want to recycle. Then you give them a can. What's going to happen is all you're going to do in this kind of phased rollout is put 20,000 cans out. You know what people are going to do who don't want to recycle?
They're going to use them as a trash can, right? Of course. I mean, that's always the issue. Is that with the second recycling cart, it's going to be the second trash can that people want.
Exactly.
But the question is, so you can't phase 20,000 at a time. Can you phase 10? I mean, is there a number to which you guys can negotiate with? Not 311, because I do think that there needs to be a phased rollout. I don't think that you can just rely on people picking up the phone to call 911 or 311. Especially for our older residents, et cetera. I do think there needs to be a phased rollout, but if you're saying you can't handle 20,000, is there a number that you two can, you don't have to do it here, sit down and try to negotiate over what that phasing looks like? Matt Torrey.
So let's be clear too on a couple of these points. The request for a phased rollout came directly from IV, which the city agreed. A subsequent request came for a pilot, which was a smaller subset, as I mentioned, of the phase rollout, which would be approximately 2,500 households per service area. So when we talk about 20,000 service locations per phase, that's for the four service areas, not just one, not just IV.
I got you.
IV, which has two, it's just two separate contracts, which again, they're paid for every service location in both of those contracts, Waste Pro and Richards. I want to take time to remind residents while they're listening, every resident in this city is entitled to 2 trash carts under these contracts for free. Call 311, request your second trash cart. IV, Waste Pro, and Richards will deliver it within 5 business days, and you can use it. If your trash cart gets damaged, call 311. The contractor will repair or replace it at no cost. Already in our contract is a position that all contractors are required to have, which is a dedicated and full-time recycling coordinator. The great thing about that position is they're supposed to do all the things that Mr. Litchfield was just talking about. They're supposed to do outreach, they're supposed to do education, they're supposed to address contamination in their service areas. So we really look forward to the contractors and their dedicated recycling coordinators to doing those activities, and we agree, we think that that will ultimately lead to a successful rollout of this program.
So, I mean, this just opens up a can of worms. So Richards and Waste Pro have agreed to the phased rollout.
They have not objected.
They have not
They've
objected.
been a part of all the meetings that we talked about, and they are on board with the program.
And again, I think it's a question of, can you guys get in a room and figure out what the correct phasing is as far as IV waste?
Well, yeah, I think we've demonstrated our willingness. We went to a phased rollout based on the requests from the contractors. We went to a pilot in front of the phased rollout based on our request. I think we've demonstrated our willingness to be open and collaborative on this project.
Okay.
And IV waste, if I can just address the council lady. Number one, IV waste is open to any discussions, anytime, anything. We want this to work. We truly want this to work. But a big feature of this, candidly, is capacity. You can't put these number of cans out there immediately and have the capacity to recycle. As Mr. Torrey addressed earlier, there's one relatively small recycling company in the New Orleans area. The other one's in Baton Rouge. Even that capacity is somewhat limited. So that's another big issue is capacity. But insofar as willingness, the council lady, of course, IV waste is always willing to cooperate with the city.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Councilmember, that's why my initial concern in line of questioning early on was because if you continue to go back to the early ages of recycling, it was dealt with more like a trend than the fact it was something that could be sustainable, that wouldn't cost the citizens, and that you'd have a market to be able to bear the cost of recycling so it's not passed on. And what has happened in the last 30 or 40 years since the recycling movement? Many municipalities have bared that burden of cost and they've shut it down. This isn't the first effort at recycling here, conversations here in New Orleans. There are councils before councils before councils that have initiated recycling. And so what makes it sustainable? First of all, when businesses and the public buy in. So New Orleans and Company had one of their lead executives here supporting recycling. Well, guess who's responsible for more people coming to this city than any other group? New Orleans and Company, one of the leaders in our tourism industry. What role will they play on the front end at educating folk in the service industry, in the hotel industry, in the nighttime economy about how to deal with recycling? Whereas the partnership, we have several community activists in here that have come here for years talking about recycling. Why will the next effort to get them in the room be the first time many of them in the room to talk about how you roll this out and how you make it sustainable? Because my fear is that we're going to take advantage of this grant. It's going to be a popular item, and then the next council is going to deal with recycling, and it will not be sustainable. So we have an opportunity now to at least put everybody together on the front end, in spite of what the federal government's going to do, and how do we have the best effort that can last from one administration to the next, one trash contractor to the next, and one policy trend to the next, period. Thank you, John.
To that end, if I just may add one thing, please, Councilman. To that end, IV commissioned Ron Fauché, Dr. Fauché, to do a poll. 600 participants, 600, so it's margin of error plus or minus 4%. And we'll release this. Dr. Fauché is going to release this to you. But just one question dealing with this, and this is when we thought there was 70,000 cans, not 83,000. Before city government buys and distributes 70,000 additional recycling cans, do you think city should develop a comprehensive plan to determine the best ways to most efficiently expand and improve the existing recycling program?
Bingo.
Take a guess how many 85% of the participants suggested that the case.
But Ray Charles could have read that report and tell you what he would have thought, just based on the history of recycling and the fact that when you deal with stuff like that on the front end, then you have a better chance of making it successful and making it sustainable.
And that's it. You hit the nail on the head, Councilman. That's exactly what, that's why we should curtail this. Let's not rush to action here. We have time. Let's do it properly. Let's do it professionally. Let's do it as good government. Let's study this and then come out with a plan that works.
Councilmember King.
Thank you, Councilman Thomas. Mr. Torre, is there a timeline set on this needing to be implemented as soon as possible?
So our current EPA grant ends in March of 2026. As we alluded to, we're exploring extending that grant. So that's the time frame we're currently operating under. But certainly, given the sensitivity of grants in general and the risk of clawback or cancellation, it is important that we move forward in starting this program. And again, the city, Office of Resilience and Sustainability, Department of Sanitation, has been extremely open to recommendations from our contractors on how to successfully roll out this program. We agreed to a phased rollout approach. I will say, for the record, on multiple occasions, we've asked the contractors what that phased rollout looks like to them. No contractor has provided any recommendation on what the timing or the number of carts in that. So, but it is important that we move forward. Again, we can continue to have those dialogues on what the details of those phases look like, but we're open and we've agreed to that, and we need the contractors.
Well, here's what I ask, if I may, just real quick. There seems to be, and everyone up here is 100% pro recycling. Let's not get that twisted at all. I'm just hearing some concerns from the dais. Some of our, more importantly, I would say, the recycling advocates who kind of do this every day express some concern. I take their concerns very highly. And we also have a representative from one of the three contractors also express some concern. So I don't want to rush into this. I'm just speaking for myself, and haste makes waste. So I also don't want to delay it too long and we lose our money. That's a possibility as well. So is there maybe some kind of compromise where we can table it for, this is just me, where we get everybody in the room, the experts who had their concerns, the contractors, you all, because there seems to be some hesitation.
So I was just going to add, we're happy to sit down with any hauler, any contractor, any community group and hash out additional plans. I will say, Mr. Litchfield brought up, let's get an expert. We are working with the experts in the field of recycling, the Recycling Partnership on this. We meet bi-weekly with them. We're happy to expand those groups. The Recycling Partnership even came down and visited the IV Waste Transfer Center in July and offer recommendations on their operations as well. So they've been engaged directly with the haulers, directly with the city. I will also say it's around the EPA money. Our program officer reached out to us and explicitly told us that dollars need to be spent. And I think that we are at a moment now that if we are unable to move forward and start spending money, we are putting ourselves more at risk. We are absolutely putting these dollars at risk of being called back.
Well, let me just say this. I'm going to stop talking. Again, no one up here is against recycling. We just want to make sure that everyone is reading from the same sheet of music, the council, the experts, the contractors. That's my only reason for making those comments.
So what's before you today is the contract with RERIG to provide the carts. Mm-hmm. That's it, not any type of agreement on what that rollout looks like. That is something that comes from the city ORS and working with the contractors. So again, regardless of whether this program moves forward, which we hope it does, the city still needs to buy carts going forward for recycling. And this is the mechanism to do that. So let's not conflate what a rollout schedule looks like and approving that versus approving the contract to buy carts for the city, which we need to do regardless.
Yeah, but while Mr. Nichols basically said it, to roll out, you start spending the money anyway. You don't. It doesn't ultimately have to be the recycling program. You can start spending the money on coordination, education, getting people in the room. So.
We are.
Yeah. So why would the money be in jeopardy if you've already started on the front end, which is engaging the community, educating the community, and then programming the program?
Yeah, well, I mean, I
Because
agree
if I'm
with you,
the
and we
EPA,
are. We are spending that
okay.
those educational
Okay.
dollars. We are getting ready to submit our first invoice
All
for
right.
reimbursement. But again, $3.3 million of this grant out of the 3.9 is this contract. So it is the vast majority of the dollars to be
Yeah,
spent.
but why would it be in jeopardy if I've already started spending on the front end, preparing for a foundation for a sustainable program?
Well, I can't explain the motivations of the Trump administrations for you. I'm just relaying
I'm
what our
not
EPA
worried about
program
Trump
officer told us.
administration's motivation. I'm worried about our motivations right now.
But our risk is that an arbitrary decision is made by the federal government to cancel or claw back this program if they don't deem that it's not moving
But if you can show them that there's communication, coordination, and an educational rollout, which leads ultimately to what the money is for, why would they cancel it?
We can't answer that question. All we can tell you is that there is a genuine risk given the actions that the federal government has taken to date, and that's as evidence on this slide.
Okay.
Councilmember, I do have my button.
Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, thank you. Similar to Councilmember King, I'm all for recycling. I think every single one of us is. I think every member of this council is for recycling. My concern, however, is that it doesn't seem like enough communication has happened with the providers who are contractually obligated to provide this service. I understand that, about a phased rollout and what that looks like. So I do wonder, Councilmember Thomas, if we can table this discussion, as Councilmember King said, to either a full council meeting, or I'm happy to have it at quality of life. I mean, whatever, one of the other committees, if you'd like to do that. I know it's in your purview. I don't want to kill this contract. I don't want to kill this deal. The community has spoken, they want recycling, but I just worry about the logistics of actually the rollout plan.
Councilmember Harris, I'd just like to say, you have one contractor here of the 4 service areas. We have had many meetings.
That's my point, is that the other
We've
contractors
had many
aren't here.
meetings, well, they're not here because they're not in open opposition or opposing this. We've had many meetings on this contract. We've acquiesced to the request to have a phased rollout model.
Well, look, I'm going to say this. Ultimately, the city is responsible. We get blamed for what contractors do or don't do. City council people get blamed for state bridges and what happens in the school system with the school board and Bessie. So I'm not blaming the contractors in terms of how they educate or roll out. That's where leadership from within the city and department comes from. Someone with the city should hold them responsible in terms of whatever education component or outreach component that they have to deal with this issue. I wouldn't wait on them. They're busy trying to pick up trash. So I think it's your responsibility or the city's responsibility to hold them accountable in terms of how you coordinate an education component with the people in the city that have been fighting for this for some time. I wouldn't wait on them. Now, if you're saying that jeopardizes their contract or that they're not upholding a certain end of their contract, then that's a whole nother issue.
We are here advocating and asking for the contract with Rearing on recycling carts to be approved. Tabling that contract could have far-reaching impacts on this grant and its implementation. When tabling it, we have no idea when the next time we're going to come back before a council committee with the budget hearing starting.
Well, to my colleagues, look, even with all the concerns here, I don't know that we want to table this, but I do know that before it comes before the full council, there's an opportunity that some of the concerns that we've heard here could have and should have happened. I would love to hear the comfort from folk like Ben and Greg and others in the community to see that level of communication and coordination has happened. And because you can say what you want, but they've consistently been here every time there's been an issue on this. And so why they weren't brought to the table and why there wasn't a meeting or outreach, I don't know. But, you know, I believe in democracy, right? If it's the wishes of this committee to not vote on this or send it to the council, but I do know we can send it to the council and then have an opportunity to deal with it then. Councilmember King?
Thomas, I would like Mr. Torre to ask you this. If we send it to the full council next week, is that too much of a delay?
No, that's what our expectation was.
All right, so I think that's good. Had the full council every council member represented, every district represented with the 2 at-larges to have a more robust conversation about it.
And for the public, guys, I think we see just how important this conversation is. And I know that the activists in here who've been talking about this have worked hard to try to stress that this isn't just a trend issue or an issue for us to deal with. It's something that's going to be with us for a long time. Mr. Ben Bagwa?
Thank you all for your time. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
3 years ago, almost to this date, is when I had my first speech in City Hall about a very similar topic. Our recycling system in the entire Gulf South is broken. We don't have the infrastructure for this major expansion. We don't have the facility, and the facility is not in Orleans Parish. So if we're going to give all these bins to these people who don't even want them, wish cycle by putting things into the bins that you hope to be recycled, causing extra cost on our contractors, having to pay for it twice after you pay for it to be recycled, and then it's deemed contaminated and has to be sent to the landfill. It's called wish cycling. I have a company, and I'm not here for myself. I'm here for this community. You've seen my work all around Jazz Fest. You've seen my work all around French Quarter Fest. I'll self-proclaim it. I am the recycling expert in the city of New Orleans, and I was not included in this conversation. And reading the approach on how you wanted to phase this out without consulting me actually made me sick the last 2 days. So, for the community, for Mother Earth, to do this right, I'm going to ask to be included in the conversation. And Ms. Harris, who loves glass, glass can currently be included in our current curbside program. Where the material's being brought has the ability, and they're currently accepting it. Residents don't need to pay extra to recycle their glass. We can use that glass right here in the city of New Orleans to fill those potholes, so our friends at Glass Half Full can go restore the coast. So, I am the expert. I would like to be included. So real quick, if I have 20 more seconds, here we go. Let's use this money to bring recycling, drop-offs, and education at the NORD facilities. Let's start with the kids. Let's work with Real Cycle to bring real recycling to the city of New Orleans. Mr. Thomas, I want to thank you for your leadership in including the community in this new direction. It's an extra step.
Thank you, Ben. Ms. Julie Tafaro. Thank you, Ben.
Hello, my name's Julie Tafaro. I am the CEO of Ivy Waste. We were not prepared for this meeting, so I apologize about my attire.
No, you look perfect.
Thank you. I do want to clear something up. I've been told by Waste Pro that they are not in favor. I cannot speak on their behalf, but I do agree with the council that we all need to collaborate and work more with the sustainability department and sanitation department on this program. Prior to my my position at Ivy Waste, I was the Southeast Recycling Coordinator for Waste Connections, who picks up Jefferson Parish. And for 6 years, I was their recycling coordinator. I single-handedly implemented recycling in Jefferson Parish schools. And I agree with Ms. Harris, you start with the youth, with education. I went to every single school and taught our children how to recycle. I feel like the biggest issue with dropping these cans would be there's nowhere to put the recycling material inside these homes. You would need a second bin. So dropping a can, I understand that you guys want to capitalize on this grant, but it can be used for education. It doesn't have to be used strictly for containers. And my concern is with the city's deficit, if and when some of these containers are not wanted, who picks up the cost to have them removed? That's going to fall on sanitation as well. And it's my understanding they're short-staffed. I know we hired a new gentleman who we love, who is all for recycling, and we're going to work together. We're meeting in a few weeks. But there's a lot more work that needs to be done on the education side and the planning. We're definitely putting the cart before the horse, and I just want to make that clear. We have a lot of work to do before just passing let's drop carts. I feel like this can be used in other ways.
Yeah, that was one of the first questions I asked, is that, so how do we deal with the long-term sustainable costs if this impacts the community in a negative way and we're not prepared to move forward? So I just thought that was an obvious question to ask. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Councilmember Thomas.
Mr. Sage Michael?
I'll make a quick comment while we're waiting for Sage. So the city meets weekly with all of our curbside collection contractors to talk about operational issues. Obviously, that includes Waste Pro. Waste Pro's been a part of these rollout meetings. Jesse Murphy from Waste Pro is the vice president for this region. I spoke to Jesse on Thursday last week about this program. It's inappropriate for another contractor to speak on behalf of another contractor unless they're acquiring that company. I'm not sure why statements are being shared referencing their opinions. So Waste Pro could be here if they want to. Waste Pro can send a letter to the city and the council if they have an opinion opposing this program, which they have not. And as of last Thursday, they haven't shared that with the Department of Sanitation.
Right. Let me tell you what would have been appropriate. It would have been easy, right? If you guys would have come here prepared with all of the contractors, with the community activists, and with someone from the school board, and said we're all in support of how we roll out this effort, then a lot of these questions would have been avoided. And that would have made it a whole lot easier if you guys had done some of that legwork and phone work and text work on the front end, so that the contractors would have been here to say, each of us, this is where we are, these are our concerns, this is why we support it. The community folk, people like Sage and Greg and Ben and others, and said, hey, look, this is why we support it, but these are some of our concerns, then that would have made it a lot easier. And we'll get to that point. Mr. Sage Mike.
Yeah, 2 years ago today, actually, Gregory was on the news talking about culture of cleanliness. We had a cleanup in the L9. So you're right, we do this constantly for our lives. Not only that, I'm a climate justice organizer for New Orleans Healthy Gulf, and we're eating plastic, we're eating pollution, and while I have a recycling bin, that's very important to me, but I do have a strong concern that the team mentioned they spoke to contractors, they spoke to experts, and just having a decent conversation talking to Ben about this, even if you might agree or disagree with Ben, having that conversation out will be honorable. It would have been honorable just to hear him out before coming here. And I think there's a solution that both could work. You're right, I won't hold up in much more time, but the way you all announced it, that you have to have a comprehensive plan. We can't just say recycling. We can't just say this, can't say that. It's a culture of cleanliness we need, not just this piecemeal and that piecemeal. Mark Morial, in the past, he had a whole beautification campaign when he was mayor. I still see some of his signs today. Until we get a citywide comprehensive program where we attack blight and conditioning of waste in our community, we're just going to be making a recycling program. We're going to be paying more for trash cleanups. We have to have an overall culture of cleanliness so we can stop this waste and this waste reduction and this plastic we are consuming in our bodies. Not only that, the capacity of Baton Rouge, I'm about reducing emissions, but you know, a truck driving to Baton Rouge, I believe that increases the carbon footprint, you know, of waste driving to Baton Rouge. Some limited facilities. Is there an estimated increased demand? Will these facilities be able to hold it? Do these cars have to be rolled out one per day? It seems like we just kind of throw them out there and people are going to use them as trash cans. So thank you all. Let's have a culture of cleanliness and let's make sure people are at the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. As someone who was part of that effort with the Morial rollout, with the Clean City Initiative, we would have hundreds of people out in the districts with fraternities, sororities, nonprofit organizations. I remember one in District B where we had 170 different folk that came out. The garbage contractors would actually underwrite the cost with gloves, supplies, shovels, rakes. But one of the most important things for that initiative that we had, and I was on that committee, was that we penalized the illegal dumpers. The Morial administration had quality of life officers who would march them to municipal court, to the criminal justice system, where they would be penalized. So the enforcement end of it and the community part of it, so it was one of the things that amazed me when I came back and I saw that whatever culture of cleanliness we had was gone, that people littered, They dumped anywhere they wanted. They threw trash anywhere they wanted. When I remember the time when we were as aggressive at penalizing the dumper as the dope dealer or as the carjacker. And that seemed to have gone away. Any online comments? Thank you. Any closing comments? You want to move to send it to the committee? I'll move to send this to the full council. Second by Councilmember Harris. All in favor? Ayes have it, so ordered. Guys, do some of that work in between meetings, so we'll have a lot of the questions that were asked here answered. Thank you. Next item on the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I would just like to...
Councilmember Green.
I would just like to recommend that on the council agenda that we anticipate that we'll probably have at least 15 minutes of discussion on this matter. So maybe there can be a special time.
Okay, yeah, that would be fine.
I think your next item is going back to the number 5, discussion on the persistent and growing issues of the illegal tire dumping.
Who's here to make that presentation? Okay. And thank you guys, man. 7th District, the very best.
Yes.
If you can start your presentation, yeah.
Greetings, thank you all for inviting us to come. I'm Lieutenant Lawrence Jones, the Assistant Commander of the 7th District. I have with me today Detective Sasha Winchester, who serves as our Community Liaison Officer, who's particularly have done an exceptional job and attempted to eradicate this dumping session in this 7th District. So we're prepared, and I'll allow Sasha to kind of give you guys an overview on where we are and what the great strides we've made in the 7th.
All right, good morning. I am Officer Sasha Winchester. I'm the Community Liaison Officer in the 7th District. I believe we started in June. I reached out to DOTD's, one of their engineers who has control over the LPR cameras that are at the Michoud exit on I-10. And since then, he has added me to a thread where he sends out LPRs of, and pictures of possible dumpers, people who get off on the exit with stuff in the beds of their truck, come back, and where a little bit of time has passed with nothing. And since then, we have made, I think I've cut 16 viable items. Of those, I made 12 arrests. So we've arrested 12 different times, I think 8 bodies, 8 different people. Some of them were repeat offenders. Most of this relies on the LPR readers that are located at that exit. And like I said, the DOTD engineer, Mr. Justin Gilbo, who sends them to me on a daily basis. I usually get them from the day prior. So over the weekend, I will get Fridays. And I just go over it, see what I can do with the pictures he has, and I start my investigation from there. I think we could definitely use some more support as far as cameras go in different areas, because Michoud and I-10 is not the only big dumping area that we have, especially in New Orleans East. That particular area, again, I've made pretty good strides in that area because of the cameras, the LPR cameras that are there. But since then, the activity in that exit has gone down a lot. But we have heard complaints at neighborhood association meetings that it's picked up in other areas where we don't have cameras. So it would be super helpful if we could get some assistance with that as far as cameras go. We've been working with Wildlife and Fisheries, and this week coming up, I have, I believe, 3 guys from the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality coming down to speak with us. They may be able to assist with cameras, maybe not, but they are excited to work. So that's what we've been doing so far.
As you can see, Councilperson, our 7th District has taken a very aggressive approach as dumping related. Just some words from some of our citizens: we're tired of being dumped on. And if you dump in the 7, we're going to find you, we're going to investigate you, and we're going to arrest you. So we've been taking a very aggressive approach with that, and we will continue, not just with the exits, but also with some of our apartments, like Nazareth Inn, one of our elderly homes. They had some tires dumped. Sasha was able to go out, get some information, and we arrested the person who did that. So we're going to be very aggressive with that, and we're going to continue this approach.
Right, and if I could just state, we have been using the state statute, not the municipal statute for this.
Right.
So they do get physically arrested. This is not a summons or a citation.
We have some other presenters on this issue.
Good morning still. Yep, I'm Claudia Regal, Director of Mosquito, Termite, and Rodent Control Board. And so we're involved in this as well, because I think all of you know a tire holds water. It is the best container for mosquito control. So I just wanted to mention that our group also is a tire transporter. We threw the LADEQ, so we are able to pick up a lot of those 1s and 2s and a few more that are out there. We do identify tire piles, and of course we work with our partners to make sure that they're aware of where they are. We do larvicide these tires to make sure that it's not, from a mosquito standpoint, a problem for the community. And we do conduct community pickups. I think you know that. We work with our homeowner associations, our districts, and when we can pick them up, we do. We involve lots of volunteers in there as well. I think it's important for the public to know, too, that they're able to, through sanitation and their bulky waste, they can call 311 and place up to 4 tires next to their can for pickup. Super critical. We find that a lot of times our residents don't know that, despite a lot of outreach that is being conducted through social media and in person and all of that. I did want to mention that people can come to Bugfest, October 11th. We do a lot of recycling there. Education and partnering with our different city and state partners. It's a great place for people to understand. They can come drop off their e-waste, for example, glass.
After they vote.
After they vote. It is on Election Day. Sorry about that. We didn't realize it. We also work a lot with tires and tire dumping. If it's educating folks in schools, the community, there's a lot of infrastructure for that. But anyway, that's the tire. Please, the homeowners need to put those tires for pickup at their trash can. One quick thing, West Nile virus, the southern house mosquito, that is the mosquito that you find in those tires throughout the summer season. So main vector for transmission of West Nile, so very important for them to be picked up weekly.
Good morning, Captain Davis Motter with Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. New Orleans East is a high priority area for us in relation to gross littering and dumping. We have worked with NOPD, with DEQ, as well as DOTD. We're in that thread that the lieutenant and detective spoke about. It's been effective. Of course, it's still a target-rich environment. We've seen a decline. Over the year to date, we've had 44 arrests. Some have been physical arrests, some have not, depending on what statute we use. We find getting with DEQ and utilizing their regs, that the threshold of the amount of fines goes up significantly. So there's teeth to it. And also working with DEQ and their fines, we can find a business or we can charge a business along with an individual. Our methods have been the LPRs in the DOTD thread, but we've also utilized deer trail cameras, and we found them effective. We're actually partnering, or not partnering, but we're in the process of, we're T&E and we're fixing to purchase 20 cameras from Wise Eye Cameras based out of Denham Springs. So I can get with you guys after.
Yes.
They're cost effective. One thing is 500 hours of our man hours were utilized in these 40 some odd arrests. So it is labor intensive, as y'all know with NOPD. And we all know we wear a bunch of different hats in law enforcement. So we have to, as we're dealing with this as well. But we want the council to know, or this committee to know, that we're dedicated, we'll be diligent. There was 40 arrests. We hope we make 0. We want compliance, but we're gonna continue to be steadfast. Anything we can do to help with NOPD, with the council, we're here and willing. Thank you.
Y'all have been extremely helpful. Ms. Carmelita McKee.
Thank you. I just want to real quick say, New Orleans East Matters, Healthy Gulf, Community and Public Advocates thank New Orleans Council Public Works Committee members for empowering community involvement to eliminate illegal dumping. We're focused on collaboration to eliminate illegal dumping in New Orleans East, interstate off-ramps, state roads, environmentally sensitive areas such as the marshes and along bayous. Our goal is to establish a task force that includes community members, businesses, city, state, and federal representation. I want to thank, I was hoping you didn't leave before I could say thank you to Mr. Torrey, because we have emailed, I think, all of you, these departments over the years, and you have stepped up for New Orleans, and we are so thankful. I've never met anyone from Wildlife and Fisheries, but finding that you guys are the real muscle behind catching these people that come in and dump. Right now, we have city roads. Michoud is unusable. Dwyer is unusable. Paris Road behind Eastover. These are roads that we pay for. They're unusable because they're covered in trash and things like this. And the task force, as part of our presentation, I'm not sure how that's going to roll, but those are some of the things that we want to talk about, how to be proactive, more proactive, and educating people about the recycling, the environmental impacts of dumping, just how it makes our children feel. I grew up in New Orleans East. I'm not naive enough to think that, New Orleans East is going to be pre-Katrina, but that's okay. It can still be another beautiful version of itself. It's already beautiful. It's one of the most well-kept secrets in New Orleans, how beautiful New Orleans East is. But the dumpers, as you said, that's my home turf. Why you don't have a right to come and put your garbage in my backyard. So I thank you all with all my heart that you are doing this work. And Mr. Oliver, let us know how you want us to roll with the presentation. Thank you.
No, well, first of all, thank you, Wildlife and Fisheries. You guys have been a blessing, and Mosquito Control Board, as well as our 7th District, and Ms. Candace Taylor also. This community effort, we're finally seeing it get to the point now where illegal dumping and city beautification is a priority.
Yeah.
Ms. McKee, you said something. I mean, there are parts of our community that we can't drive, where we can't have economic development or growth because it's blocked off. Overpasses and roadways are blocked off, not because people don't want to use it. We've blocked off because the illegal dumpers have taken that access to that property. So we don't close it off because residents won't use it or because folk maybe won't eventually invest in it. We shut down the thoroughfare access because dumpers have said, we've seized this site, which is crazy. So we're going to constrict our city because someone wants to dump their trash. In many cases, they go through other parishes and other states to come here. I did a whole expose on Channel 6 with Aubrey Killian, where I went to the dump site, did my own investigation, got my own information, tracked it all the way to St. Charles Parish, did a whole report from St. Charles Parish, got Channel 6 to go out to St. Charles Parish. They said they'd contracted with somebody to dump that stuff. That person drove through St. Charles, Jefferson, New Orleans to New Orleans East. Instead of bringing it to a trash yard or to a dump site, they brought it to New Orleans East. I did all of that in the public, and nobody went out there to issue a warrant or cite somebody or to punish somebody for doing it. So, and I can say that that's not my job. It's not the job of the news station to do investigative work around people who are trying to destroy our city. Someone should have at least followed up, went to that warehouse, which is in St. Charles Parish, said, who was that contractor? Can we get their information? And punished them. Period. Because you guys are doing everything y'all can to try to work together and collaborate. But we got to start making examples of people. Mr. Torrey.
Well, thank you for having us here, and certainly we work collaboratively with all the stakeholders at the table as well. Our primary role in this is removing waste tires from the public right-of-way. Unfortunately, we've removed over 37,000 waste tires from the public right-of-way already this year, so on track to have a very high number. We do partner with the health department as well as the Mosquito, Rodent, and Termite Control Board on priority public hazard locations. So I know mosquito and termite had an excellent activity in July of this year out in New Orleans East. We removed over 1,500 tires. The majority of them were on private property. So we have to get those deemed a public health hazard in order for sanitation to access that private property. But the Mosquito and Termite Control Board did the legwork on getting that declaration, which allowed us to go on that private property and remediate that West Nile risk. So we work hand in hand frequently together to do that. But certainly there are far more tires on the public right of way than we have resources to pick them up in a timely fashion. And as Councilmember Thomas said, and others said, that's taking resources away from other things. I mean, instead of picking up 50,000 tires, just think of all the other things the Department of Sanitation could be doing with those resources if we weren't doing that on a daily basis. We do, in addition to being able for residents to be able to put 4 tires curbside and call 311 to do that, that's the important part, again, because a separate truck obviously is coming to pick up those tires. When you call 311 for a large item pickup of tires, it's not going in the garbage truck. We also facilitate our weekly drop-off at Elysian Fields. We just had Shred Day this past Saturday, but every Saturday from 8 to 1, 28, 29 Elysian Fields, you can bring up to 5 tires there on that Saturday and drop them off at that facility. While we're not law enforcement, we do have sanitation rangers who do provide some type of enforcement activities. We inspect waste tire shops, and we're able to bring them through an administrative adjudication process at the city here for violations, and we work closely with DEQ on those tire violations as well.
Mr. Torrey, people have just gotten used to dumping, and that's why this conversation is important based on the other conversation. We talk about a community rollout, education. There are folk who go around to the different tire shops and who pick up tires, and there hasn't been an effort in terms of punishment, discipline. There hasn't been a clean city education initiative and collaboration. So they're just in the habit of, they don't care about Shred Day because they know for the last 16 years, all they've done is picked up some tires and drove them to an empty spot. And once that spot was clean, the dumpers feel like we cleaned the spot so we can clear it so they can come dump some more. They're like, oh man, the city cleaned it up for me. Well, that's good. I can bring a bigger load now. So at some point, what we got to do is lay in the gap and say, or start this education effort. And that's why the other conversation about this education effort is so important. Folk are just operating the way they've normally operated the last 16 to 17 years. No one's ever done anything about it. It's okay to do it. No one's ever been punished. So that's why that education component and that outreach component is critical, not just for the last discussion, but for this discussion too. Councilmember Green.
First, I want to start off by thanking all of you all for the work that you do. It's very, very difficult.
Absolutely. And thank you,
to
Mr.
address
Torrey.
this issue. I do want to point out, Mr. Torrey, and the Department of Sanitation, because it's a tremendous problem in New Orleans East. It's also a tremendous problem on the elevated expressways of the 7th Ward especially. Recently, these criminal dumpers dumped tires outside of the post office on Dalman Road. And same-day response was necessary because the post office, the federal post office, could not get its trucks out of its own yard because they came out of a street. They come out of a street onto Dalman Road. But the Department of Sanitation quietly responded in a same-day manner, and I appreciate that. Just want to let you know that. I want to also emphasize that the people who do this are criminals. They know exactly what they're doing. They get paid to do something correctly, and they choose to do it in a criminal manner so that they can simply keep the money. One party that we don't have at the table is the district attorney, who charges and who pursues prosecution against those criminals who choose to disrupt and to destroy our communities. Now, it was mentioned that there have been a number of arrests. I'm surprised at the number of arrests, but can you tell me how many arrests there have been recently relative to illegal dumping? Because then the next question I'm going to ask you, which is an important component of this, are you aware of the penalties associated with them being caught?
Yes, sir. I made 12 arrests. It's been 8 bodies, but 12 arrests. I am working with Daniel Shanks from the Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office. He has been screening all of our cases and helping us make better cases moving forward. The penalties for, I use gross littering, which is a Title 30 charge. It has a $900 fine for just gross littering in general. If tires are involved, it is $1,800. I believe the time is like 30 days in prison.
Has anybody been assessed the $1,800 fine or incarcerated over the years because of this illegal dumping?
To my knowledge, we just started using the state charge. We've been using the municipal charge up until like right now. I haven't gone to court for any of the cases yet, so I can't give you if anybody's been convicted.
I'm asking the district attorney to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law, the maximum penalty allowed. This is not just a passive issue. This is an issue where these guys go out of their way to go into certain communities especially, and they also know what they're doing. These tires, when they pile up, I went to a tire dump that was on fire once next to Interstate 10 by 610. It was a hazard to the people who were driving. It was an overgrowth of, a large number of tires that someone had set fire. Of course, we talked about the mosquito issue, but just the quality of life of the people, especially the people in low to moderate income areas that they target. And that has a lot to do with where these interstate highways go through. But at the end of the day, it's a very, very serious crime that I'm asking the district attorney to do everything that he can to pursue the maximum charge possible. I talked to a woman on Humanity Street once, an elderly woman who saw somebody who lived in her neighborhood who was dumping tires across the street from her house or near her house. And she said that she actually said, I'm going to take the chance and I'm going to speak to this person and ask him why he does that. Why would you dump in your own neighborhood, she asked him. He said, you know, the city's going to come to pick it up. He had been paid to take those tires away, but he just feels that the city is going to be there to take it away. That's not on the fault of you all. It's not on the fault of the council. It really falls on those people who are criminal enough to decide that they're going to litter our community and think that they can get away with it. It's also important to recognize, I'm kind of just talking a little bit because you all know this already, but some of those arrests that took place recently were of people from Slidell, were people from Marrero, St. Bernard Parish. What's that all about? Why do you have such a hatred for New Orleans and for the fact that we're doing well in certain areas that you choose to go into a vibrant community such as New Orleans East, get off the interstate and leave your tires there? You pass up interstate exits to come to New Orleans East.
Because they feel they can get away with it.
They can feel that they can get away with it, and I'm going to tell you very honestly, that has to change. Whether or not you feel that it's being harsh, whether or not you feel that we're focusing on areas like, oh, we could give them education, we could give them remediation and things like that. No, they're criminals. These people are putting piles of tires out at a particular place, knowing that it can rain and that the children in the areas can be impacted by mosquitoes, the elderly people. That's why we have West Nile in certain places, because we have tires that sit there for 2 weeks at a time, and that's not a fault of sanitation, because sanitation is involved every day with the removal of tires. I have seen it. We used to have dumps along People's Avenue, for example. We've had dumps at St. Roch and under the interstate. We've had dumps in multiple places, and as I mentioned, that one dump was cleaned up in a day. All I'm going to ask is, with those who are criminal, who see and understand the impact of what you're having or what you're doing, just please stop. Because what you're doing is not something that's just getting picked up by the city. It's something that's impacting the quality of life in neighborhoods where people deserve better. Somebody recently dumped a tremendous pile of furniture on in Pines Village. It was like a truckload of furniture. And I just know, of course, that they were paid for that. But when you're there, you are less than a mile and a half away from the legal dump. When you do that, it's because you're a criminal and because you don't care about our communities. I'm actually appealing to them too, in terms of tires and some of the dumping that's going on. If you're the people who are doing this, if you have children, if you have elderly people in your family, if you have any sense of decency at all, stop what you're doing, because it has a terrible impact on our communities. just a terrible impact. It's not something that is victimless, and the city can't get to them all the time. So every day that it sits there and water gets into those tires and that furniture gets wet and it's harder to take away, you've done a tremendous disservice, and you ought to have more pride in yourself too. But let's make sure that the district attorney is pursuing the charges to the maximum extent possible so that we can send a message through either heavy fines or incarceration that the city of New Orleans is not going to stand for this forever. Thank you.
Councilmember Green. Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, thank you. Just very quickly, Matt and your team, thank you for always helping with our community district-wide cleanups. We always find a multitude of tires, especially around Central City, Hoffman Triangle. As Councilmember Green said, we have an issue with illegal dumping. I was just behind a car where some guy just like threw a can on the neutral ground. And I honked at him, which I shouldn't have, but it's so infuriating to see that. And I do think I agree that we need a robust education plan. And again, it always goes back to the kids. And Sage, you and your team do this all the time. But the idea of educating kids, starting at NORD in the schools, about illegal dumping and how this really impacts community, I think is very important. To the 7th District, I hope the NOPD asks for more money for crime cameras in the upcoming budget session, because I think that this is an important effort. And I would love to see it expanded into the 6th, again, where Central City, Hoffman Triangle are, and we know that we get a lot of tires, a lot of furniture, a lot of illegal dumping. But we have made progress, Matt, with the no dumping signs that have been posted in areas where we see multiple dumping happening. So thank you for all your efforts. Sage, you and your organization, keep up the good work. And I got a meeting to go to.
I think this is the last item before we adjourn, and thank you for your concerns, your questions, especially about education and community involvement. I want to thank Detective Winchester and Lieutenant Jones. This initiative is 16 years, 15 years kind of late, but at least now we have an effort to kind of rival what happened in the mid to late 90s, when these perpetrators and people who dumped in our city were made examples of. I'll never forget that thousands of people would come out as part of a Clean City initiative. Fraternities, nonprofits, churches, organizations, because Mayor Morial and members of the council had formed a committee with the business community to say that dumping in trash, but also there was an education component. I think, Mr. Torrey, that this is one that also needs to be a regional effort. Because if we're going to keep it 100, too many of our neighbors will hold on to their coffee cup and their fast food stuff, and they'll throw it out of their window when they hit the Orleans Parish line. So maybe we need to engage everyone and say, hey, man, we're also a region. We may not operate like a metropolitan region, but maybe we should start operating like a metropolitan region. What's the comment? Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice.
Is a threat to justice everywhere. So let's start operating. Our friends from Wildlife and Fisheries, New Orleans East Matters, the community, Mosquito Control Board, and you guys are making this a priority. So we see that now. So now we have an opportunity to come together and say, hey, look, as a region, as a city, it's unacceptable. You shouldn't be trashing our community, and it has long-term environmental effects. And Ms. McKee, what you said is actually so profound. I mean, we have access to prime property, overpasses, and roadways that we didn't block them off because people were being murdered, or we didn't block them off because they were a threat to society. We blocked them off because the dumpers and litterers said, this is our property. That makes no sense at all. Right. We have one card, Mr. Sage Mike. We have any online comments? Okay.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, look, I know Lieutenant Jones from way back from Comiskey. I was starting my organizing. He was a catcher, and I was getting him his water, making sure his baseball and glove was great. Right. When he came to the 7th District, I knew he was going to be all right. And I really appreciate seeing people like him. Slidell PD did make some posts about it. on their social media. On their own, they say NOPD is hot on you. So they use their social media agitatingly to make sure their people know if you're dumping in New Orleans. And so I think that relationship is open. October 6th, we have a meeting planned to meet at KIPP Elementary School to bring together not only dumping, but other quality of life issues. For me, this is an opportunity to create this hot potato task force where you mentioned the DA have to prosecute. We have to have everyone in the room so we don't throw the hot potato out the room. Everyone accountable is in the room, including community members, instead of just hot potato dropping. We're building that coalition by working with each agency individually as we are coordinating these efforts. And so let's continue that. The DA is necessary. State police came to some meetings in the past. So let's continue that. I look forward to having that task force. For example, the way you would work it is, for example, Malia subdivision, if you take Diamond to the end of Malia and we go right every street from Dwyer all the way to Shelf and we write down every quality of life issue over there, dumping, quality control issues, infrastructure dumping, we could really like vet that area out. You know, we have to really like flush these areas out instead of like piecemealing this and piecemealing that. It's really setting the idea of beautifulness in Malia. Then you move over to Rosedale. Then you move over to this Pine Village. And you have to go across these neighborhoods and flush these things out, but show people you care about them. Diamond barely has a flower on Diamond Street. We have to beautify Diamond. We have to beautify our communities, not just come by enforcement, but as we talk about revitalizing, we must beautify too. Thank you.
Thank you. No online comments? Lieutenant Jones, Detective Winchester, any closing comments?
I just would like to say that, first of all, I hear your message and I live in the 7th District. So it's a problem for me too, and that's why we've taken this aggressive approach, and we're going to continue to take this aggressive approach to try to get this situation taken care of. We have our community members that also send us video, so we're going to investigate it, and we will look up that other issue that you spoke on to, Councilperson. I'll get with Baron and
Any other closing comments, Ms. McKee?
I just wanted to mention one thing. I'm not sure, Matt, if you were at that last meeting with Scott Boyle and Justin. They mentioned that there used to be an agreement between Fed and state, where the federal was given jurisdiction over certain areas. I think the authorities met privately after that. They were going to have their other meeting, but the federal partner there advised that because they had that jurisdiction, they were less encumbered by some things, and they were able to issue stiffer penalties. And there were people actually in Angola who he had worked those cases. I never found out what became of that and if that's an option still, but it just seems like it gives you another layer, a federal layer, that if people catch a federal charge behind dumping, it would be an absolute deterrent. I would not drop so much as a plastic bottle top if I knew that there was going to be a federal charge associated with it.
And I would also like to take a look at, I have heard some people say that in some communities, you can brand or mark a tire so you know where it's picked up from. And where it's picked up from, who did that particular business contract with to go dump it. And they keep an inventory. So if you find a tire that has a OT on it, then you'll know that OT came from my shop, and who did I contract with to go, which would be a simple branding. Well, who did you give this stack to? Who did you contract with? So I would hope that once the committee is formed, or as it expands, we could take a look at that particular branding or labeling so we know not only where a tire comes from, but who did we give it to go dispose of it. And Mr. Torrey, I understand that that is possible, and if we could get together, I think some of our state officials actually mentioned that in the meeting that we had when they were looking at this issue some time ago. So hopefully that'll be one of the recommendations. Mr. Torrey, any closing comments from you? And Mr. Torrey, you've been a brunt of some really aggressive discussions, but thank you for being responsive. You know, I think this is all part of it. We can't be afraid to challenge each other if we're going to have a community where at least we feel like those little things to those big concerns of the fact that businesses as well as community and residents and activists are involved. So thank you for sitting through the meeting.
Yeah, thank you, and I share your sentiments. I believe it takes, all of the parties at this table and beyond to really put forward a concerted effort to solve this problem. As I mentioned, just being responsive and picking things up isn't going to solve the root cause, and we really need to get at that.
Well, I think Ms. McKee made, Councilmember Green, you, former head of economic development, a businessman, and, the press is gone, but it is crazy to me, how can we allow our community to constrict, right, when we want to expand our economic footprint? So there are vacant pieces of property that are next to some of the most pristine land in America. Bayou Sauvage is one of the great natural wonders, right? A lot of these these places where our natural topography and our natural waterways are economic opportunities. How do we allow people who dump and trash our community to constrict the city economically and determine where we can't go, where we can't drive, where we can't build? That's absurd. It doesn't make any sense. Let's move beyond that. Let's start holding these people responsible for hurting our land, hurting our environment, and hurting us economically. Thank you, guys.
Mr. Councilman,
Yes.
Mr. Councilman, before we close, I just want to say one thing. And we can't.
I thought I was closing.
We can't be afraid to call the state out on some things. For example, Mr. Sage, when we have that meeting next week, I want us to also talk about the fact that the city has so many restrictions on what it can do relative to even sometimes overgrown lots because of state law. I don't want to have all these darn hearings. I don't want to drive down Majestic Oaks and see all these lots overgrown and have to abide by laws that aren't sensitive to what we have going on in our city that's special. And that also involves illegal dumping, to be very honest with you. I can't do much about the guy who comes in from Mississippi because it becomes federal. But I do know this, I can do something, and I know that the state can prosecute if somebody comes in from Pearl River, Louisiana, and dumps, because they have jurisdiction. I guess the state folks would be able to tell you that they have jurisdiction. Look, I asked for the district attorney to be involved, but let's not forget this. We also have a state attorney general, and if people are coming in from Marrero to New Orleans East or to Gentilly, the state can get involved with that prosecution too. We need to use every tool available, and there is no excuse for what these guys are doing. They know what they're doing. They dump furniture on Hermes Street at 3 o'clock in the morning because they didn't want to spend the money to do it properly, and they just didn't care about that community. We need to make sure that the state gets involved just like we're involved, because the state can help too.
Well, that's an age-old discussion, and like the people of Amistad said, let us free. Our state, when you talk about revenue, when you talk about the rights of absentee property owners, the rights of people who want to trash our city with blight, right? This state is governed, if you know the Constitution of the state, it's I think it's European civil law and British common law. And one of the fine print, Councilmember Green says that municipal law and local law, as long as it's consistent in those areas with state law. So that's a conversation to our delegation, to our state representatives, state senator, and a conversation with the governor about what level of freedom they're willing to let local municipalities like ours have. So I would hope within the next state sessions that they'll deal with those issues about property rights, about disrespect for municipalities, as well as the revenue that we generate within our boundaries, where we don't get the lion's share of. But that's the 100-year-old discussion that hopefully at some point, some delegation, some senator, some state rep will fix us, so they'll let us free and we'll have more freedom. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Okay, guys, thank y'all. Great meeting.
Thank you.